Hey, Colin.
Hello, Dennis. How are you?
Good, good. Welcome back, my friend. I was telling everyone how intimidating you are and scary and just, I don't know, just everything I could warn them about you. It's, you're terrifying.
It's all true. It's all true.
Yeah, no, so you're actually our anchor at the moment. I was just outlining that we've had a great series of guests through the fall. Like they're coming into their crunch time as it would be as far as project assignments and everything ahead of them. But this is strategically timed. Colin he's kind of like, I would say he's like a Ted Lasso. And I'm not just saying that because he's also a footy fan, but he's a leadership coach who comes at it with a heart of gold. And he's definitely leans into the getting the best out of the people that are around him. And he's been a long supporter of this program. And, I applaud your ongoing support. So thanks, Colin. But yeah, for the purpose of the call and everyone that's already on it, Colin, you've joined us a few minutes early. We're going to follow the usual format of, show and tell. You can bring in whatever you've brought in to show with us tonight, and then we'll have some time for Q&A, I'm hoping. And I also want to outline the opportunities for the students to stay engaged, especially as those that are thinking about going the entrepreneurial route can leverage your strengths as a mentor in residence at the Venture Connection, but also just in general, all the things that we can do within the MDM. But as part of this recording, though, again, I am going to do a quick acknowledgement to specifically address that, we are still located on unceded territories and looking at ways that we can address our reconciliation efforts. This is something that we continue to take to heart and mind, and we're looking at doing everything that we can to have meaningful collaborations with our Indigenous communities. So some of the speakers we've had of late have talked about it from different angles as content creators, and as educators, we're mindful of this as well. With that said, so moving from the land acknowledgement to a virtual acknowledgement, and shout out to everyone on this call. Thank you again for joining us. It's been an amazing semester for me so far, and as much as I miss seeing people in person, Zoom has been an okay substitute, but I'm so excited about seeing everybody live again. Colin, back to you. As a way I've introducing you pre this call, I'd already set up that you've been a longstanding supporter. I was addressing my EA novelty check in my office, that $1 million, that had some long promotional value, but, and I know you'll touch on your background as a global communications manager there as well. So, but yeah, why don't you address this as cohort 16? Am I getting the numbers right? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah, you're 16s. Okay, cool. 16, that's awesome. Colin, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself and we'll just run from here.
Awesome. Thank you, Dennis. And wow, gracious introduction. Ted Lasso. That's amazing. I'll take that. My business partner, Catherine, wrote a blog recently about 8 leadership lessons you can learn from Ted Lasso. And so if you're looking for any leadership inspiration in your life, you can just watch Ted Lasso and you're going to get it all, because he truly is a masterclass as a leader. It's great to be with all of you today. As Dennis mentioned, you're cohort 16, and I've been involved with the Masters in Digital Media program since cohort 1 through my relationship with EA, and then specifically since cohort 13 in my additional role as mentor in residence with the Masters in Digital Media program as part of SFU Venture Connection, which we're going to talk about. So I have a little bit of content, a little bit of a presentation just to guide my thoughts for today, but I want to save as much time as possible for conversation and questions and discussions relative to whatever is on your mind, relative to digital media, relative to leadership and working in teams, to the various aspects of the entrepreneurial support that comes along with your association with Simon Fraser University as part of your program. So with that, I will.
Sharing is caring. Okay.
Sharing is caring. Wouldn't it be nice in the future when we don't have to use these weird words? Can you see my screen? Yes, you can see my screen. Yes. Why don't we even ask that anymore, Dennis? I mean,
well, I didn't have to tell you were on mute today. So for me, that's a win. This is like, I've had so many Zoom meetings, and that's been my mantra, but you came in like a pro. So
good stuff.
Yeah. I will say I can see your screen, but it's not full screen yet. So
let's do that. There we go. That's a little bit better. There we go. So Yeah, I want to just walk you through a little bit of things about myself and my career journey. I come to this point in my career primarily from the space of marketing communications. That was my craft and what kind of got me to this destination. I worked in a variety of different spaces, from a marketing communications perspective, both an agency and in-house. The real milestone of my career, and going back to my association with this program and with Dennis and others within the Center for Digital Media, was a 14-year run at Electronic Arts in marketing and communications leadership. I then had one of those things that you read about that actually does happen, which is in the later stages of your career, you can change and find a new career path. And for me, that has been into the leadership and coaching space. And so for myself and my business partner, Catherine Ducharme, in the middle of a pandemic, it seemed like a good idea to start a brand new business. So we launched Fluency Leadership in September of last year. And so we do leadership team and one-to-one coaching, work primarily with teams and leaders in communications, marketing, and the creative industries. So have an awesome network of clients, both individual as well as companies that we work with here in the Lower Mainland, lots of those in the game space as well. And again, it was a part of my learning and part of my development that I started the path about 3.5 years ago while I was still at Electronic Arts to go into becoming a certified leadership coach. And as I left EA in May of 2019, one of the first things that I did was find another pathway for me to support the community and to be involved in the industries and communities that I love. And that showed up as me being a mentor in residence with SFU Venture Connection, which is the early stage entrepreneurship program for Simon Fraser University. And we'll talk a little bit more at the end of my brief presentation about what that means and how we can interact as you explore entrepreneurial and venture ideas as part of your program, and talk a little bit about some of the clients that I continue to work with through this program, and a little bit more about the entrepreneurial sphere of programs that live within Simon Fraser University. There's a lot of cool things that happened to me over the course of my career at Electronic Arts that I wanted to share. And one of the great benefits of being here in Vancouver, one of the great benefits of your program being so connected to EA, who was a founding partner and founding supporter of the program, is just the amazing experiences, all these phenomenal only at EA moments that I was able to experience in my career. I was part of the team that built the EA Sports FIFA franchise into what is today the world's largest video game franchise. So I started with Electronic Arts in 2006, but moved over to working on FIFA in 2010. How many people? I could see a few thumbs up of people who play FIFA. Some of the 100 millions of people that play some FIFA, good stuff. And that was really transformative to take, what is now the largest entertainment franchise that's ever been built in Canada, an entertainment franchise that's bigger than Cirque du Soleil, that's bigger than Celine Dion, bigger than maple syrup, probably, if you add it all up. To think that from the studio.
I'm going to stop you there because you just made another, I've had some truly Canadian moments in the last few speakers. It was like last week we had a canoe by the river with a Indigenous storyteller, and a set person was chased off by a bear. And you're now talking bigger than maple syrup and bigger than Celine Dion. Yeah, okay, that's that. We're down in Canadian territory here. Thank you for that. I did want to also jump in, like just leading up to the EA, another interesting factoid, and I can't remember if this is going to be something you're going to cover in the deck, but when you got into EA, like you came in with a political science background, right? Was that your undergrad?
Yeah, my undergrad was in political science. I had the opportunity to get into communications and public relations relatively early in my career, primarily at the University of Victoria. And then that sort of burgeoned out into my broader career. So didn't come from a communications or marketing background, but built upon that as I moved through the journey.
That is awesome. And again, I only bring this up because our guest speaker last week, who's also sort of in a transmedia kind of space, is also a political science background. So, yay for liberal arts. But I also like the, this point of addressing that you can change directions in your career path and the professional development opportunities you can take from within. So you were saying even while within EA, you were setting up that opportunity to eventually take on this leadership role or coaching role and form your own agency to do such activities. So thank you for that. It's an inspiration for all career professional development people that are looking at what to do next. And also the path that we all take is very different and sometimes the same. But I wanted to give you a breather so you could have a drink. I'm going to have one now, but back to you.
Awesome. Thank you. And some of the early experiences that came for me through EA were to work in a space of content marketing and social media. So 2010, I think there was like 700,000 people following EA Sports FIFA on Facebook, which is probably now measured in the multitude of millions. So I had the opportunity to really understand digital media content marketing from the most formative stages. And that was phenomenal, as well as we were very fortunate and squinted a little bit to sort of see into the future that, community and influencer programs were going to be one of the most important parts of the marketing mix. And so we got well ahead of that, on our EA Sports franchises, which I had a great role in helping shape. And just the opportunity, and I think this is the most important thing, and something that you're aware of it with your program, but to be connected to the Masters in Digital Media program, to be learning a full suite of skills that are adapted and built, so well to work in the digital media space, and particularly within the games industry, to do that in the context of, I know it's a little bit on the virtual side right now, but to do that around the hub of Vancouver is amazing. And so when I reflect back on my experience at EA, to work in a fully global organization, to work in one of the truly great digital media hubs of the world, and to have the opportunity to work with some of the most creative people in the world is something that I can't think of many other work experiences would have provided me. And that's something that, as you are connected to, through Dennis and all the instructors that you work with, to be able to access those people, to be able to build them as part of your network, to hear them speak, to have them be part of your learning experience is absolutely phenomenal. So congratulations on getting this far, and to know that the context in which you're doing this is one of the best in the world. I love digital media, even though I primarily work in the leadership and coaching space right now. Digital media and marketing is still an undercurrent for me, a passion for me. What I like about it, and these are some of the cool things about it, is that it's an undefined and evolving world, and that's what makes it exciting. What you know today is not what you're going to know tomorrow. And so one of the great things about your program is how adaptive it is, how it's bringing in new thinking, all these other things that are making you more future ready relative to your skill set and the opportunities that will evolve for you in the digital media space. What I also like, and I've become a huge fan of, something I wish I knew more of when I worked at Electronic Arts, but is actually a foundation of my coaching practice, is design-based thinking. And we know, and you're experiencing it in the program today, how design-based thinking is the foundation of innovation, it's the foundation of collaboration. We actually use it a lot from a coaching practice, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a bit. But the skills that you're learning in terms of prototyping, lateral thinking, the reframing, all this design-based thinking, those really are the most foundational skills that'll help you adapt to working in the digital media space in the future. The other thing is that, again, to high-five your program, is that multidisciplinary thinking, learning a full suite of skills, that's really the superpower. The era of specialization isn't over, but the generalist skills, having multidisciplinary skills, being able to understand digital media in all its different forms and understand a lot of the different functions and skill sets within it, it really is a superpower that's going to serve you well. So having really strong foundation of everything from production to business to design to the technology side, that's really important. So just sort of reframe it a little bit for you when you think, wow, am I really going deep enough on something? The way that we want to think about the world is multidisciplinary thinking, knowing more about more functions rather than being super narrow within a particular field or a particular skill set. Team play is the only way. If you're going to work in digital media, you have to know how to work in teams. Even better if you know how to lead teams. So one of the things that you're obviously immersed in already within your program is how to work in teams and how to lead teams, how to have healthy conflict, how to have strong communication as a team. So team play is the only way when you're thinking about the digital media space. Creativity is the soul of this industry. I worked for Electronic Arts for a long time. And while certainly it was a very healthy and strong business, and certainly business thinking went into a lot of what we did, creativity and the creative process really is at the soul of it. And the innovation engine that drives it is really the most exciting part. And again, some of the best work in the world happens here. And you may be hearing that, you may observe that. I can tell you from firsthand experience and having the opportunity to be able to be exposed to other digital media hubs around the world through my time, especially at Electronic Arts, it's an absolute truth that some of the best work, if not the best work in the world, happens within this market here.
Thanks, Colin. And again, I was just thinking, I mean, it's true how things continue to evolve, and terms that when this program started didn't exist. So the old metaverse seems to be very in mind right now, or on every company's mind. So it's the
yeah, absolutely.
Blockchain, NFTs, all the other, yeah.
It has some challenges.
Oh, can I ask someone to go on mute there? Got someone. I hear some whispering in the background. There we go. Okay. So I guess I don't really have an organizing theme around this other than here are some cool things to remember. And in my work, I have the opportunity to work with a lot of leaders in the creative spaces. I have the opportunity to work with a lot of teams, helping them get to higher performance, helping them have healthy conflict, helping them become higher achieving and more fulfilling in the work that they do. And I kind of distill this down to a couple of things to remember relative to your experience working with your cohort and working with your teammates and even future into your career. Less answers, more questions. We like to say particularly as we grow and evolve in our careers, is we're going to have less and less answers. We're not going to have all the answers, but what we always have available to us is to ask more questions. So really stepping into a space, particularly when you're working with new people, learning new subject matter, is to worry less about getting to the answer, more think about how do I ask better questions? How do I get more curious? When I'm working with others, how do I get curious, not furious when we go through conflict? So just really think about that. We also want to think about, particularly working in a team environment, is to do less talking and do more listening. From a coaching perspective, that's foundational for me because my listening skills are the most important part of my coaching practice. If I can't listen to the person that I'm coaching, then there's no way that I can be in support of them. And so we like to think about the metaphor, we have one mouth and we have two ears, that if we become stronger listeners in the work that we do, learning active listening skills, that can be foundational to how we grow. So again, making sure that we are balancing our talking and our advocacy in the work that we do, in the teamwork that we do, and to do far more active listening. The world of design-based thinking has given us permission as a working culture to think less about perfection and more about prototyping. Particularly through the lens of the business, through the lens of the COVID pandemic. No one can pay the price for perfection. And so I really offer this to you as you do your work, as you're working on projects, as you're thinking about your future career, is to do more prototyping, do more small versions of things, and see if you have permission to succeed, to continue with a good idea, and to do more prototyping and keep working those prototypes until they fail, which means you can go back to your other ideas, or you can have permission to continue. But no one can pay the price for perfection. And so we really work with leaders and we work with teams. When we think about healthier teams, they do a lot more prototyping and they spend a lot less time thinking about trying to get to that unachievable state of perfection. And then lastly, I would say that in our work today, and particularly in this remote learning environment, we just try and think about doing more. And we always encourage people to do less. And we think about the productivity and think about the purpose of your work as being what really drives you rather than the volume of work. So as you're balancing your studies, when you're balancing your teamwork, when you're balancing all of your things outside of work, really think about, how do I do less things, but how do I do those less things better in my life? Is really a pathway to having more fulfilling experiences and actually being more efficient and doing more work in your lives. I know those are all a little bit abstract, but reflect on them.
It's not in the sense that we also last week we just talked about electives, and all of our students, being the ambitious, brilliant audience that they are, or would probably take every elective offered, but we're trying to focus in on the few that will actually give them the most benefit in the sense, and focus on what's important as far as because there's lots of opportunities to learn along the way, and if you take on too much too soon, you lose a little bit of that benefit. So the less volume, more purpose. I'm seconding that because I brought it up last week when we talked about the elective interest. Choose one, choose wisely, and live by that choice, and you can always learn about the other things later on. Anyway, that was your breather, Colin, and I just wanted to second that that's actually based in reality, and it's very tangible to something we're exploring right now. So thank you.
Yeah. No, and it's very much a product of this past 18 months, especially when we think, well, we don't commute, we have smaller social circles, we're leading these little micro lives, that we have more time on our hands, and so we should do more things. And the challenge is to say, do you need to do more things, or do you need to do less things better, and to do things that are more purposeful in your life? So just an offering for you. The other offering I have is a lot of books. And so I am a voracious reader. I'm a voracious learner. That's been a big part of my journey into transitioning into the leadership and coaching space. And so with the limited amount of free time that you have, and if you are interested in books and thought leaders, such as you see here on your screen, that can provide you with inspiration, give you framework to be able to learn and grow in your journey, both in your careers as well as your education, here's some that I offer. I love Essentialism by Greg McKeown. It's one of the most powerful and important books that I've read about how to lead that essentialist life, how to do less things better, how to prioritize in your life, how to work on what matters most, how to be good at saying no, and how to become a better discerner in the decisions that you make in your life. Greg McKeown's an awesome and very entertaining thought leader in the leadership space. And I would say that Essentialism is one of the most important reads that I've had in my career. One of the most important foundational models of how teams work that Catherine and I use in our practice, we do it as workshops and ongoing learning for the clients that we work with, is Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And maybe give me a thumbs up from some of you that may be familiar with it or have read it in the past. It's a fantastic read. It's actually a fable. It's a fictional story that tells us the fable of a dysfunctional team, and it talks about 5 principles of what makes a healthy team that can deliver results. And it's a great model to think about as a team, and particularly as you transition to more team-based activities and team-based learning within your program. And it's built around a model of the foundation of trust. Trust needs to be present for any team to be high performance and high functioning. From the basis of trust, then you can have healthy conflict as a team, which is through the lens of making better decisions, having great disagreements, and getting to stronger innovation. From the basis of having healthy conflict, then you get to commitment. So everyone knows exactly what everyone's going to do, which then leads to the higher level of accountability, group accountability. I know what Wilson's going to do. Wilson knows what I'm going to do. We're bonded in a joint contract of accountability. And with all of those things, then we drive higher results. We do better work. So Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is a fantastic read for that. So much of what we work on in our school and in our work is relational. And Kim Scott's Radical Candor is one of the most important books that's been written and become a framework for how teams have healthy conversation. And she introduced this concept of radical candor, which is how do we have better conversations with our peers and with the people that we work with through, again, this lens of radical candor, which says I can challenge directly and care personally at the same time. And so I encourage you to explore Kim's work. I also love David Epstein, who's a fantastic author and journalist. And he wrote a book a few years ago called Range. And Range really says that the generalists in the future, those who have multidisciplinary skills, who know some things about a lot of things, and really have the perspective of the generalist, are going to succeed in the future economy. That the era of the specialist, the person who is like super deep on one skill set area, they are going to become the dinosaurs, and the generalists are going to take over the world. So I love that because I am a generalist, but it really gives a lot of faith for those that have an assembly of great experiences in their life, but you're not sure exactly what it all looks like. And you're entering into a multidisciplinary program with the MDM program. Range is a great sort of touchstone to give you faith that being a generalist and having skill set and awareness and abilities in a whole bunch of different areas really is the secret sauce to a more successful career. Jim Collins is one of the most celebrated authors and leadership experts out in the world, and he republished his book Beyond Entrepreneurship late last year as B 2.0, and it is a foundational book relative to the fundamentals of what makes a great business. And so Jim Collins's work has always been, from good to great to built to last, has always been about what makes great teams and what makes great businesses. And Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0 is just an absolute flagship book relative to that. So if you're looking for a place to say, wow, if I think about the future, I want to think about how does a company build vision and mission and values and goals, and how do they measure goals, and how do you build culture, and how do you build a roadmap towards building a business. Jim Collins' book is really a one-stop shop for so much of that. And then the last book, which was really the book that inspired me to pursue coaching and leadership development as this chapter of my career, is Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. And the unique take that they have is they take design-based thinking and apply it to the most wicked design challenge that we have in our lives, which is our own careers. And so taking design-based thinking, such as reframing, radical collaboration, those sorts of principles, Bill and Dave have built an amazing framework that is a great compatriot to your careers as you think about how you design the life and the career that you would like. And I've actually done in the past, I think we've done it twice, right, Dennis? A couple of workshops.
I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I'm like, everyone appreciated that workshop so much. So we might have to revisit that. So it's, you may pick up on some excitement. We are getting back to doing some live in-person things. We have a master class coming up on November 19th. I'm getting, the opportunity's coming. One other add-on I'm going to add for Colin here too is that he has worked with cohort since 13, and he's been a supporter since the beginning. He's also had meetings both on campus, off campus, as far as those connections go. I'm hoping we can revisit that idea of the office within Amped, which is one of our tenant companies, but another bridge to cross. But I still remember the Design Your Life workshop. I was chatting with Josh a little bit ahead of your joining us, and it was memorable and appreciated. So thank you.
So books that you can resource, and of course you've got YouTube and TED Talks all over the place relative to all these authors if you want to get some inspiration. And then finally, just to conclude the boring PowerPoint, and then we can get to the conversation, is to talk about the MDM program through our association with SFU and Venture Connection. So this is now into my third year. So my fourth cohort is being the embedded mentor for this program. So SFU Venture Connection is the early stage entrepreneurship program within the SFU sphere of entrepreneurial programs, which now live under sort of the broader umbrella of the Charles Chang Institute for Entrepreneurship. And again, it's really designed to be an early stage entrepreneurship program that takes business idea and pulls it through to business reality. And so through this program, we provide to clients who are, all associated to the SFU community, which, includes all of you, support through mentorship, through resources, through physical workspace, the opportunity to take a business idea and pull it through. And so for myself as well, I work with a number of clients, some of whom are MDM program graduates, but also work with programs, work with the program from the summer term. So for some of you, you may end up starting in May, working on a summer team project, and I will provide, if you desire it, mentorship, coaching, support throughout the course of that summer project. And then we'll talk, Dennis, maybe at the end of this week, and sort of talk about how that whole entrepreneurship journey can kind of pull through. So again, and it's the opportunity. So if you have an entrepreneurship and venture idea, you get the opportunity to work within a community of other like-minded people who are working on their own ventures as well, and get access to a full slate of mentors, learning, and resources. So right now, as it stands today, I'm currently working from cohort 13 with Immersio, who have an interactive contextual language learning app specifically for ancient and indigenous languages. I've worked with them for 2 years now. They're making phenomenal progress on their business, and really excited about where they're going. And then right now as well, I'm working from cohort 15, working with Ethica, who have a web-based plugin that allows online shoppers, starting with the grocery sector, to be able to make stronger ethical and sustainable choices in the products that they buy online. And so I'm working with Ethica right now. They did a summer term on this project. They're currently doing the venture internship and program right now. And if they continue to make progress and want to continue with the venture, then we would onboard them into the SFU Venture Connection program as ongoing clients at that time. So, and just to close, and we can talk more about the SFU program or everything else that's on your mind, but here's all the different ways you can find me. There's my email address, phone, and how you can find me on LinkedIn as well. As Dennis mentioned, part of today's conversation is for you to get to know me, to know what I can do in support of your learning journey, and particularly through the lens of entrepreneurship in the future. But know that right now, this is an open opportunity for you to reach out to me anytime relative to your program or relative to anything else that we've talked about today. So I'm going to stop the boring screen share and come back to all these cameras that are turned off.
Hi.
I know.
It's a balance. Look, Dave appeared all of a sudden. Dr. Dude out of nowhere.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. So good. Nice to see you, Dave.
And actually, so that's a good, I'm glad Dave's joined too, because Dave, for those of you on the call, you already probably know and love Dave as much as we do, but Dave's been working with the interns, but also the venture interns. And as part of that process, in particular, the pitch project opportunity that will be presented to you for that third term. Tom, hey, there's a Tom on camera. Missed that guy too. So he's living the dream. He did it. He ran the gauntlet. We actually had 4 teams pitch last year to potentially pursue a pitch project in term 3. 1 made it. This is, I want to say that, it's not a, it's a challenge to get there. It's a bit of a gauntlet. There's some very intimidating dragons that will grill you on your questions. Colin has participated in the past, and he's going to be a great coach advisor for those of you that are thinking about this. So I would say, don't wait too long to engage with Colin, especially if the opportunity presents itself to connect with Colin leading up to those opportunities, because he's got so much advice to share, not only around framing the idea and laying out a roadmap for it, but how your team presents itself, positions your deck, a lot of other assets around communicating the value of the idea. And yeah, Tom's team was successful. They actually did the pitch project and moving on into the actual venture internship term. And I believe you've secured, there was one of the innovation awards or something as part of it. So Tom, are you on mic? I was going to get you to maybe say a few words yourself. I miss you, buddy. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a little while, Dad. It's good to see you. Hi, Colin. Hi, Dave. Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone that I've seen recently in the last few days as well. I'm not aware of the Innovation Award, but I'm certainly looking forward to hearing more about it, Dennis.
Oh, there you go. Cat's out of the bag. Maybe I said something I shouldn't have. But
Oh no, we've been quite lucky. We're Team Ethica, working on a browser extension in the grocery resource space, and we were lucky that the CDM provides a scholarship for the intern semester, which has really helped out. And Dave has been helping us as well through MyTax, trying to get funding for that too. So we're certainly working on a few things that we wouldn't have had access to if we hadn't have been part of the CDM. So I highly recommend it. And Colin's just been a great resource. We meet with him every couple of weeks, and especially in the design world, when you're trying to create something out of nothing. I don't know about the rest of you, but I often go through a bit of like imposter syndrome. And sometimes I just think I'm just genuinely crazy, because you're really creating something out of nothing. And so to have a resource like Colin that you can talk to, and Dave and Dennis and everybody at the CDM, just to have those resources that they can kind of bring you back from thinking too big, and it's quite helpful to have. So I highly recommend taking advantage of everything you can get here.
Thanks, Tom. And I don't know if you kind of caught it earlier, but I was giving you a lot of props for being the industry rep for the C15s. And I got Ruchi working with me now for the C16. So your earlier work was recognized, but I said you set a bar, and I'm hoping we jump over it, at least meet it. I've got great expectations. But yeah, and so also just to further on what Tom was saying, so there are these resources. Obviously, Dave is going to be instrumental as far as you pursue your MDM path, and he's internal all the time. Colin is our mentor in residence, who's directly working with our MDM teams, has some history here and that willingness. And I did want to jump in with the question that I saw in chat before we go too deep that Wilson put out to Colin. What do you look for when you look at a potential venture project? Like what sort of defines, I guess, a venture to you, Colin?
That was a great question. And that's one of the things that we can work through. And Tom knows this because we've gone through the sort of business planning process for a new venture. And I guess the starting point would be, are you clear about a problem statement? Are you clear that there's a problem that exists out there that is currently not being solved, from a business or a service perspective? So be very, very clear about the problem statement that, an audience or a certain group is facing, and then be very clear about like how your idea solves that problem. So you want to be clear on that. And, Tom knows this because we come back to it all the time. And whenever there's like, uncertainty about like where the venture's going and what are we doing and what kind of business are we building and how should we do this, we always come back to like, what's the problem that we're trying to solve? What's the problem that we're trying to solve? And we spend a lot of time on that and then figure out exactly what is our solution? What's our unique solution? Then you want to talk about, your understanding of an audience. So do you know, like if particularly for a business venture is like, who's going to be your audience? Who's going to be your market? Who are you going to actually sell your product or service to? And then do you understand their motivations? Do you understand their drivers? Do you understand, again, clearly how your solution is going to solve the problem that they have? And then you want to do other things that go through the process, demonstrating, the market opportunity. So, you don't want to have like an awesome solution to a very small problem. You want to have an awesome solution for a very big problem, which shows the opportunity for a business to grow, to scale, to be able to be successful. And then obviously then show it a pathway to business model, right? Do you understand like how you would generate revenue, how you would have sustaining revenue? Do you understand exactly how you would convert interest into, the actual revenue? But the primary thing, Wilson, and to all of you is to say, if you're trying to think about an entrepreneurial venture, you've got to have a problem to go solve. And it doesn't have to be a problem that has never been solved before. Doesn't mean that there aren't other competitors on there, but you need to know like what's the problem that we're trying to solve, and be very clear about how you would solve that problem. So in the case of Tom and Ethica, I think they have a very strong problem statement, which is right now, particularly in the vastly enormous market of online grocery shopping, which is a phenomenon that has exploded, especially over the last 18 months, it's very, very hard to make ethical, sustainable decisions relative to the grocery products you buy, because it's very hard to get all that information from a variety of different sources. The online shopping portals that we use don't surface that kind of information. And so Tom and his team are developing a solution through the browser extension that solves that problem. And so we're super clear on that. That's what we keep coming back to. And so one of the things, and Tom and I and the team have worked on this this fall, is there's a whole business canvas planning framework that we use at SFU that we would work through. We use it as the intake for incoming clients into the SFU Venture Connection program as well. So like kind of a lay down of the things you can do. So it's really a disciplined process, but it all starts with like making sure that you're clear about the problem that your venture or your business is there to solve.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Colin.
And one of the things that I'm going to throw at you too, Colin, and before I jump to some of the other questions in chat, is the idea of a venture, like on the business end, at least within SFU's mindset, it doesn't have to be exclusively a scalable business. It can be lifestyle. It can be, it's not even necessarily digital. I've known of some candle companies that have come through. I've known of Smart Sweets was a local company. I don't know if any of you eaten that candy, but it was a locally developed confectionery that's got acquired for many, many millions of dollars. But I mean, a business can take many forms. So I don't know if you've seen that, Colin, as far as is there sort of a leaning towards the scalable enterprise potential companies as far as investment goes, or is there coaching of the smaller scale lifestyle businesses as well?
That's a good question. I haven't really considered it. And now I'm thinking about the ventures that I'm supporting today and what they look like.
You know what? I'm
Yeah.
gonna let you get back on that because there is some, I've seen different scales of businesses being presented, and I do believe that Immersio and Ethica, BB, like they all have the potential to scale. Like those are very investor-ready companies. They're not as much lifestyle, as they could actually become huge successes. So I'm rooting for them. So Tom, I really believe in your product, and I'll be the first one to use it and market it myself. But I did want to switch gears on the marketing side too, to say that there was a question about how do you market yourself as an individual? So switching gears from the entrepreneurial end to like those that are generalists that want to really, speak to that value they bring within organizations. How would you as a marketer help them consider what they put into their portfolios, resumes, or their pursuit of careers?
Yeah.
How do you market yourself and those skills you bring as a generalist?
Yeah. So the starting point is to be very clear about the skills that you bring, right? To always be conscious of the skill set that you've acquired, and you can acquire that through education. You can acquire that through work experience. You can acquire that through volunteer opportunities and volunteer experiences as well. So to be super clear about the skill set that you're bringing, and to think about it through two lenses, not just the functional skill set, like in programming, design, art, business planning, whatever it is. It's important that we're clear about our functional skill set, but we should also be very clear about our behavioral skill set that we bring. So whether that be communication, conflict resolution, relationship building, those sorts of things, those are equally, if not more important. So when we talk about why having a generalist approach can be advantageous to you rather than being a specialist, one of the biggest advantages of that is that the generalist is able to have a broader perspective. The generalist is typically going to be a stronger relationship builder because they're not so narrow within their particular skill set. And they're going to be better problem solvers because they're going to have stronger perspective. They're going to know a little bit more about other things. They're going to have stronger relational skills. So if you're very deep on one particular skill set area, that can be a great as an individual contributor, and that can add a lot of value, but it can also create a lot of blind spots because you're so deep within your functional skill set that you can't see the broader perspective. You can also sometimes have the challenge of working in team environments because you don't relate to the skills or the challenges or the contributions of others. So we really think about that. The primary thing is to have a strong story, to have a really strong story, to be really clear about the value that you bring. Like, what are those acquired and skills that you're uniquely good at, that you're uniquely passionate about, that you've proven out in a variety of different places, whether it be in school or at work or in volunteer opportunities, and to be super clear about your story, because how you will advance in your career is directly linked to how well you tell your story. Your resume will not get you a job. Your LinkedIn will not get you a job. The way that you will get a job and the way you will have meaningful interactions with others in your career will be through your ability to tell your story, to talk about what you're uniquely passionate about, to what you're uniquely skilled at, and the value that you can bring to a particular opportunity or job. And so as a resource, really encourage you to look at Designing Your Life, because there's a whole chapter and a whole great sort of framework around how to tell your story, because we engage in stories. That's the human condition. And so the stronger I am at telling my story, the more people are going to be interested in my story, which leads to more conversations, leads to more opportunities, and has the opportunity for me to really leverage the full range of skills that I have and that I've acquired in my career.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think, Thelma, did that touch on the part two of the question there? As far as I saw you nodding along there because I was seeing something in the chat, and it's true. That combating the not being seen as too generalist, but also the story is the important part of this. And I've seen it over the years of the MDM as well, because often when you think about the projects you've been on or the portfolio pieces, it's not just about putting that image up there. It's really what you brought to it, how you solved that problem, the challenges that you overcame. Those are the things that are of interest to the employers, because they want to see you as a well-rounded individual. And I think that value of this program being as interdisciplinary as it is and learning from those around you, you can still be obviously specialized in the direction that you're moving in, but that awareness and that greater, even that breadth of understanding or appreciation of the disciplines around you, that has huge value. But it's often, unless you tell that story, they don't know, right? And again, this is maybe I'm going to follow up on Colin's offer of LinkedIn. So you saw that LinkedIn there and him putting that out there. You add him to LinkedIn. Building your network is hugely important. I just listened to a podcast on LinkedIn just yesterday, and it was I'm forgetting the actor who played Kumar in the Harold and Kumar movies, but he was he was also in Designated Survivor. And anyway, he applied for a White House role, right? And he had some good connections, but he never actually leveraged those, and it got lost in the application ether because he just submitted it through the White House job portal. But then as soon as he spoke with Michelle Obama, who actually spoke with President Obama, he ended up getting a job in the White House. This is to say that, often you're so humble, you don't necessarily want to leverage the connections. And it's not to say, hey, get me this job. It's just to get me if you have people in your network that you can have an informational interview with, they get to know you, they can put your name forward, right? And that's the difference. And I think that's often striking that balance between wanting to be humble and really, and also respecting what you did, and also respecting the work that people do around you, but make the most of opportunities, tell your story, and leverage the people that want to help you that are around you as well. So if I find that podcast link, I'll share it with you all too, because it was quite good.
And I'd just add to that, Dennis, relative to the generalist sort of framework and Dave would know this from his experience working in games, and it's relative to all parts of the digital media space, is that it's entirely team focused. Individual contribution is only like the smallest slice of what is, being successful in the digital media space. Everything in digital media is made by teams. And so your ability to have an awareness of like what a good team looks like, how to be a high functioning member within a team, or even better, how to lead a team, those are the rarest of skills and the most valuable skills. That's such an advantage of the program that you have because it is so team oriented. You're already working in teams. You have the opportunity to do that through your summer placements and summer projects and stuff. That is the absolute secret sauce. And so when we think about the folks that we work with at the leadership level, we're dealing with relational conflict of teams. That's the primary thing. We're just helping teams become higher functioning themselves, because relational conflict, the inability for teams to work efficiently, to work with purpose, to work in high trust, those are the things that kill businesses. It's not like a bad idea or cost of goods or anything like that. It's really about relational conflict. It's the highest cost of business. So when you think about this program and all your past experiences and how you carry that forward, your ability to be a high functioning team member, and again, even better, to be someone who chooses to lead teams. And so you're then leaning into conflict resolution, you're leaning into communication, you're leaning into relationship building. Those are foundational skills that will differentiate you from someone who's really good at art or really good at programming. So, and if you are, more of a specialist, make sure that you're getting yourself that opportunity to work in team-based environments, because that'll be an element of your work in digital media, no matter the context and no matter where your career goes.
Thanks for that, Colin. I'm just taking a moment. It looks like we got a question or comment in chat. I can't get there. It's pretty long, but something about clean tech. Actually, let's see. How can we scale organizations as an inherent business flaw in clean tech-based organizations? Trying to figure out the secret sauce, what's missing. So do you have any perspective on the clean tech space and its potential? Maybe it's sort of been not fully delivered on the envisioned potential. I mean, is it still there? Is it? It seems to be. It still trends in a lot of the topics and the directions that I see different organizations, pushing to address. But
yeah, I wouldn't, and I don't really have a lot that I can bring to that conversation, other than to say maybe something's changing in Glasgow right now as we speak. That's changing this and pushing clean technology into the forefront. Obviously, it's been a big focus of technologies in British Columbia for a long time. Attracted a lot of the high skilled talent and things like that. Certainly, there's been some challenges relative to traction and things like that. But I think we could all be hopeful to say that's going to change. Companies like Ballard Systems are still around. One of the most momentous and most promising clients that we have in Venture Connection right now is a company called Moment Energy, and Moment Energy are delivering now a really cool solution where they take recycled electric vehicle batteries and building them into basically large shipping containers and building portable, renewable energy sources for remote communities, for work sites, basically replacing diesel generators that are operating in everywhere from mining sites to First Nations communities, and building it through a renewable resource, which is electric car batteries that have moved past their useful life within a car. So I think there's changes, and I think the imperative around it is going to obviously increase as time goes by. But if you're interested in a cool story in the clean technology space, I encourage you to look at Moment Energy, who are just doing some amazing work, winning tons of awards right now, and really building a lot of momentum.
Yeah, and again, so don't worry about asking any long question. No question's a bad question, and I love these. And it's actually, clean tech is an area that there is a lot of interest in BC. There's the Clean Tech BC Association. I did remember reading an article on its potential. It's still there. I still see it as blue ocean because it's been underserved. So if that's a passion area, or you have some solutions in mind, you can run with it. There are people in this space, and there's people in the, not only within Venture Connection, but in industry that are quite interested in that space. So keep it in mind. I am going to switch it over to the raised hand. So Ruchi, do you want to jump in and give us a question?
Yeah, thanks, Colin. That was interesting. I just want to check, how is the process different for a product that's targeted towards business? Like, how is the process for launching a venture different for B2B versus B2C? Something that's not targeted to consumer.
Yeah, and it's interesting. A lot of businesses they might start as being B2C, but realize that maybe they're more B2B as they go, and it can go vice versa as they really define like their audience. So sometimes, and again, your end audience really gets defined by what problem you're there to solve, and to try and figure out, where you're at. And I'll give you a good example, which is Immersio, very much, who again have an interactive contextual language learning app designed for ancient and indigenous languages. When they started and we started working with them, Dave, this, like they were very much like B2C, like we're going to develop an app. We're going to develop an app, and then people will download the app, they'll subscribe to our app, and that's how we're going to generate revenue. A couple of years down the line, what Immersio is learning is that their greater opportunity is actually in the B2B market. And so now their focus much more is on working with First Nations, cultural organizations, language learning organizations, and saying, hey, we have built this amazing platform that can take, someone speaking in Hebrew, someone speaking in Macrae, and we can pull that through from that spoken audio recording. We can pull that through directly into a contextual, interactive language learning experience for somebody, so they can learn not just how to read, but how to speak a particular ancient or indigenous language. And so what they're seeing now is that their opportunity actually is to work with cultural organizations, work with First Nations, work with indigenous groups, cultural groups, and actually be more of a platform than an end product. So that's a long way of saying it really depends, so like you're out there to solve the problem. Like, a particular user has a problem that they can't find a solution for in the market today. The solution might be through delivering your solution directly to the consumer, or it could be through working with other organizations who have a relationship with them as well. So, from that perspective, and even, Tom with Ethica, we have that conversation sometimes. It's like, are we developing a consumer product, or are we going to develop a platform that online shopping companies and portals would want to incorporate, right? Like, so it flip-flops, but we're still dealing with the same problem, right? We're still trying to solve the same problem, which is how do consumers get the information they need so that they can make stronger ethical and sustainable choices in the grocery products that they buy every day. So the market and who's going to be the end customer, as it were, can change over time.
Thanks. This was a different perspective.
Yeah, so I think, as you're all thinking about, the various areas of interest or where you see there's a problem to be solved, there's a lot to consider, and whether it's a B2B service, a B2C, and I think the real opportunity, like within the MDM, is, going back to one of Colin's earlier statements too, is to like just do rough prototypes, come up with many different concepts, test them to see if the potential's there. You don't have to go too far, but get too invested to start proving out some concepts. I mean, I applaud Angela Hamilton's team from years back, and Angela was an MDM entrepreneur in residence for past teams. She's working with E at UBC now, which is another resource you can leverage after you graduate. I'm just bringing that up because that's the entrepreneurship at UBC support network. So Angela was on a team that was doing a sharing platform, and her prototypes was a simple, well, I want to say like an Excel sheet, but it was a sign up sheet for, I want to loan you my bicycle, you can sign up and get this, right? So they had some really simple prototypes to prove out different concepts. So I think you all can start thinking about this early. I know, Dave, we've been talking about that. We want them thinking about it earlier in the MDM system, so you don't have to jam it all in just to that pitch week before we get there. So again, it's not to add one more, thing to your plates, but I mean, if you can go into the break in December with a bit of time to reflect and have conversations with your classmates, you might be able to take these ideas further. And I mean, one other notable connection that both Colin, Dave, myself, and Eduardo DeMartin, who was the president of Microsoft Vancouver, a really cool gig. He was at Next Level Games. He's another gamer that went into, we'll say, bigger tech with Microsoft. He left this really cool job to go to a company called Cubic Farms, which is it's helping with the whole growth, ag tech, right? Agricultural technology, growing food and looking at supply chain. So I'm looking at, there are so many digital media solutions for all these different verticals, from fintech, ag tech, clean tech, add tech to anything. You guys can run with this. So it's the, it's blue ocean. There's lots of opportunities in the MDM. I think you've got these great people around you, and it is a we, not an I thing. So going back to that team comment earlier too, it's like, the more you can reference what you can achieve, it's great to acknowledge like your individual contributions, but always recognize what you pulled off as a team. I can see that in resumes and portfolios and cover letters. Like, the more, you can definitely look at things with we and not I. Respecting we only have a few more minutes here, I'm going to jump over to Wilson with the virtual hand up. Wilson, over to you.
I also got a question, like when we pitch idea for the venture track, can we pitch more than one idea? Can we pitch multiple ideas?
No. So when it comes down to the actual pitch day, and you will get all these details, you've got to be locked in. You will have to have done your homework to have found the one that your team, and it's also, you can't hedge your bets. When you have a team, you can't have team members that are going to be on two different pitch teams. When they're on a team, you're pitching for that particular product with that team. Jason's got a great deck, and I was discussing with Rachel as far as this fits into next year's syllabus on projects 2, the timing. We're going to be laying that out for you all. You will get those details, but good question, Wilson. Answer is no. You got to be all in on your one idea with that one team. And not only will we see this, and we're not necessarily the be all end all, we do bring in an external advisor committee that acts as, I mean, if you're familiar with Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, it's essentially the same but we don't grill you as hard. There's no like Gordon Ramsay, frying you on a frying pan here or anything like that. There are some Ted Lassos. We do have the Collins on the panel, but we also have the Daves who will ask you the hardball questions. And that's right. There he is. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Any other questions, folks? I know some of you have class with Jason again coming up, and home stretch now. No, maybe no. Foresight Accelerator is a good Vancouver clean tech resource. Tom, value add. Look at that. Coop was the Angela company. I probably should have named it on the call. It's being recorded. And Moment Energy was the company that Colin was mentoring. So look, this is how you get advice. You ask questions, put it out there. No question's a bad question. Please keep asking questions all of your life. More questions, more listening, less talking. I'm going to end it here. So if there's no more questions. Awesome. All right. Hey, thank you again, everyone, for another great evening. You are a highlight of the term for me, because it's like, again, I love seeing Josh around the office sometimes in person, but it was very limited. This is the most heads I really see on any given day of the week. So I appreciate it. You're seen, and I'm going to say goodnight now. So good luck with everything as you move forward with it. Ruchi, you and I will be in touch. We're going to make magic happen for the next term's speaker series and the like. And the rest of you, enjoy your evenings.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Look forward to staying in touch.
Good night.